SPYR.
Welcome back to Starting Now. I'm your host, Jeff Sarris. This is the show where I talk to entrepreneurs who reveal the unexpected paths to where they are today. Today, my guest is Cyberh49, the founder of Animetas. It is Cyberh49. The H is silent, but which I really like that. But we dive into computer vision, machine learning, and all of the things that Cyberh has in his background. He isn't a doxed founder, so it's actually just going to be a still of his PFP, and we don't have his actual name, which is no problem at all. But just so you know, going in, that this is going to be a little bit of a different episode from normal. But I find his viewpoint on everything super fascinating. He's staying agile, and he's been building Animetas over the last year and a few months now, and testing things, moving along as like we need to as creators in general, entrepreneurs, but also you can sort of see his the researcher side of him come out through what he's doing. And this is a fascinating conversation. I definitely could see having another one about many of these topics in the future. But anyway, without further ado, my conversation with Cyberh49 from Animetas. Yeah, I just really love your insight into everything, and just how you look at the space is it's sort of refreshing, I guess, because you've never been into just that like we're all gonna make it kind of mentality that so much of the space was for so long.
Yeah, totally. I mean, basically, I try to look at stuff, like critically and like more than that, I think that like a lot of people are a bit naive about what the space is, and I think it's going to be huge, right? But I mean, the world has seen bubbles like the dot-com bubble, and like a lot of previous bubbles that I wasn't born to experience, but back then. But basically, I think that like the we're all gonna make it mentality is okay if you understand that you're going to fail a lot of times on the way, right? And you gotta keep going and basically build that like that community of people you trust, keep being consistent, keep being creative, and have a lot of patience. That's like my main takes.
Yeah, having that agility, being able to adjust and recognizing that like there is maybe no failure, but at the same time, it's no failure because you're making sure that there is no failure. You're not following some set path.
Exactly. I think like that. Maybe it's even a sense of like agency. Maybe like you can basically try a lot of stuff, and sometimes you'll fail. But like you're being very honest about what you're building. You're being very straightforward and upfront about it, and I think that it makes you like genuine in terms of like being a builder, but also like keeps people's hopes like at the right place. And
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it keeps everything sort of setting expectations is so important in the space and for ourselves. Just because as we see, people have wild expectations based on some projects that have delivered a ton of money and ton of revenue. But yeah, expectations are a tough one, even personally. Like we can have expectations of whatever it is, like, oh, I'm going to start this and make a bunch of money. I'm going to have this freedom. I'm going to have this. I'm going to have that from what I do. But those expectations can hinder where we're going a lot of times.
Totally. And I think like, yeah, it's very, like natural to have those unrealistic expectations. Obviously, when there's a bull market and like prices are exploding, and you're like everyone says, "Oh God, it's going to be like I don't know, double than that or whatever," and you find it hard to sell, right? And I think that once you zoom out a bit from like this huge casino that we call the NFT space at the moment, at least, and see that a lot of different use cases don't necessarily um, have to be very profitable, but they're still something you'd like to use, or something like it will be a building block of Web3 in the future. And like my analogy almost always, right, is that um, I don't know if scarcity is that important in terms of like the entire collection. And like we've seen this very long wave of 10K collections, and like Animetas is one of them, obviously. But one of the main things I see that people get wrong in the space is that most collectibles, right? I mean, think about Pokemon or Magic the Gathering or whatever, and that's something like I talk about a lot in my tweets and wherever, right? But like, can you tell how many Pokemon trading cards were issued like ever in the world? Probably not, right? And and basically, I don't know, like if you get a Pikachu or I don't know, like a Caterpie, or like a basic Pokemon that is very common, then it probably costs today less than what I paid for the pack like 20 years ago, right? Or maybe more. Um, but if you got a Charizard back then and you kept it, then that's going to be worth like a lot of money. And it means that like you need to get like scarcity and rarity right, because like it could be that there are a lot of different trading cards, and some have a lot of copies and some have only a few, but still like you get the experience of collecting. And I feel that it takes out like how much you think about money, because like when you really collect, when there's more substance to it than selling for a higher price or whatever, then I think that you love doing that for doing that, like for completing sets or getting the cards that you really like. And there is more than one opportunity, because not every card, like all cards are not unique, right? There are a number of copies for each. So basically, you get this feeling that you really can complete the set. Like you really can become that Pokemon master, right, or whatever. That's the best analogy I could think of. But once a collection is unique, and that's something I think all of us in the NFT space didn't get right. Is that like the getting if something is unique, then like it could be cool for a Picasso or Van Gogh or an X copy, or I don't know what, but for collections, if you really want to make it something of substance, then I think that it should have like copies or more than one. And also, once a collection, like the 10K collections that we all have been buying and selling these last 2 years, you can't decide like on day one that something is going to be a collectible, right? It has to um, get this recognition and substance and story and community and values. And it's something that I feel people are saying about different projects, that there are blue chips or whatever, but give it like 10 years, 20 years, I don't know, like 50 years even.
Yeah, I mean, that is the thing. So I have a sort of my thesis around all of these brands and IP, I guess, however you want to look at it, for all these different projects, is that what so many projects have gotten wrong is they're not focused on the collector and giving them something to feel. Like, we need to have the collector feel something, feel a positive
Yeah,
emotion, feel like a connection to it in a way that, like you brought up Pokemon cards, you didn't bring up what Garbage Pail Kids, like these random like
yeah,
niche little things from the past that people collected with like fervor. Like, they wanted it because there was some connection they had to it. And it's not that it's just the art, it's so much more when you build sort of just a community of people who love something and collect it for the
hmm,
sake of collecting. I saw actually that I think it's your dad has one of the largest Starbucks gift card collections. Is
yeah,
that right?
yeah, yeah. That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and like that's so not something no one I assume that he's not looking and saying, "Oh, these are the artists that did these cards. Like, that's why I'm collecting." It's more the feeling he has. Like, there is something about
Hmm.
collecting these cards that means something more to him than the plastic they're printed on.
Of course, and I think like it's the journey, like it's how he got every card, right? And like the places he traveled in the world to find different cards and the friendships he made along the way when like he started corresponding with people to trade cards and like finding places on the internet to buy them or trade them or whatever. But it's like it's that sense that you've made something, because you decided to collect, and now you have this trophy right at home, this grail that you love looking at, right? And in our case, it's like flexing. It's like flexing your NFT or whatnot, but the only way, and that's something that I'm talking about a lot as well because that's something we're developing for Animonsters, the next phase of Animetas. But like I found it very annoying to me that the only way to get, let's say, new NFTs is to buy them, to pay money for them, right? And I think it shouldn't be that way because like there's there should be like ways to collect, really collect, and it shouldn't be dependent only on money because then we don't give the same opportunity for different people and we don't give the same fun feeling for as many people as we can, and that's something I think collecting is all about.
Yeah, for sure. And we bond with one another over collecting a certain thing. So yeah, if everything is gated by thousands of dollars, then it's suddenly like you're not able to bring in that collector base, the thing that this really is like about, basically, because they're like digital trading cards. They're digital collectibles of any. It doesn't have to be trading cards. It can be anything, but it's some sort of IP, something we are connecting with that we want to buy and collect and trade and hold on to and watch and see what new things show up. And that's something that I think too with like Animonsters, because you mentioned it. I think it's a really interesting idea that I really like because it's a different spin. Because I think maybe you mentioned it. It could have been someone else, but if you want a rare in a collection that's minting out like normal, you either get lucky and mint it or you spend a lot of money to get it later. And there
Yeah,
isn't really anything in between. So
exactly.
yeah, it removes that agency from it.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, I said that, and I say it every time like someone talks to me about NFTs because I think that like what we're aiming for with Monsters is that like that feeling you have when you go to, I don't know, like Target or whatever and buy a pack of cards or find that exact, I don't know, like Barbie doll or whatever, that you didn't that you've never seen, and here you can trade for it, or you can, I don't know, like it could be like a lot of different stuff, but but basically, I think that that feeling of like coming to the store once a day, buying another pack from your allowance, or I don't know, like it's that feeling of nostalgia of being a kid, of being surprised and hopeful every day, every single day, right? And I think that that's what makes me excited about NFTs in general. But and besides that, like getting that, I don't know, like cool card, or that expectation that I can get a very cool card that I'm missing, right? To complete a set, right? So when we were kids, I don't know, like I remember if you completed the World Cup stickers album of Panini, then you could have won tickets to World Cup game, right? Or something like that. But and it was obviously very hard to complete the entire album because there were rare pieces and whatnot. But you always had that, like that fantasy that you will do it. You will play for enough cards to, like earn cards from friends, or I don't know, like stuff like that. And it's maybe like it could feel naive, but it feels like warm and nice, and like it's fun to feel that way. And that's why I think that, like, let's say on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, right? Then there are a lot of videos nowadays of people unwrapping, like a
Yeah,
Pokemon
unboxing
Basic one pack, right? Yeah, exactly. Unboxing
or ripping
a
packs. Yeah.
pack, yeah. And basically, like it could be a pack that's, I don't know, being bought like 20 years ago, right? And that feeling of, oh my God, I can get a Charizard, right? That's something that makes me very excited.
hmm Yeah, definitely. There is a there's it's sort of like a slot machine of sorts. I mean, you're ripping that pack. It's something you can have you can buy a bunch of packs at the store back in the day. And it's funny because it's exactly what my premise was coming into the space was, like, my company's called SPYR, SPYR. So for Web3, I
Mhm.
flipped it and called it RIPS, RYPS. And my whole plan was to be like pack ripping, bringing artists together, making the same experience, but digitally, where you're really just having the vibe, which connects to Top Shot and things, but like more
Yeah.
in this space, the different like varying IP, almost like you're getting a grab bag of sorts, like a pack that you wouldn't necessarily have just Pokemon. It's like all the different things from this same little area of a corner of the internet, if you will. But it was something that's sort of what brought me here. And then I started dabbling and just doing generative projects. But I think there's some magic to that where it it's again giving people something to feel. That's really what this all comes down to.
I totally agree. I think that, like, that's also why I feel so connected to Animetas as a collection, and obviously to Gustavo's art in general, because it's like the perfect combination of all the, not all, but a lot of stuff that makes me feel super nostalgic. And like that's the feeling I feel people are looking for, right? Because okay, there is a feeling of flexing, and that's important as well, right? But but the feeling of nostalgia, and the feeling of, like thinking, okay, that was my childhood, like Super Mario, right? And anime, and like all that kind of stuff put together into one collection, and like all that dystopian, futuristic or retro futuristic movies that we loved in the 90s, The Fifth Element, Demolition Man, like Blade Runner, I don't know. So all that stuff, I mean, like I have goosebumps right now because I'm thinking about it, right? And that's what I love about it. And it's always about, like making you feel. And I think that as a builder, right, then like NFTs is the first time I dabbled with art, right? And basically, like I do tech, right? But the moment I realized that art can make me feel so much in that sense, as a builder, it made me more passionate about what I'm going to build, right? And what I convey to other people, right? And that's for me is like the reason number one, and maybe even the only one I'm doing NFTs.
Yeah, for sure. And since you mentioned tech, I know you're not as public on exactly who you are, but I would love to talk a little bit just about your background in machine or computer vision, which I do not even know what that means. AI, you have a PhD, as far as I
Right.
could tell, in sort of these areas. So whatever you're comfortable with, I'd love to sort of dive into sort of your background and where you come from and what led you to um, maybe to tech and what the draw was initially for you.
Yeah. So basically, I've been like I love tech all my, like my entire life, but um, I really like when I like started my undergrad, then I decided to go for electrical engineering because I really wanted to understand like how systems work, right? And like get this, I don't know, like hardware, software, whatever, like get the general grasp of how to make tech work, right? So I had a bit of experience before, but not as big as I got while studying in the university.
Yeah, were you just dabbling,
And
just sort of helping people with computers and things? I know that was my sort of lane. Is I was always the computer guy, always helping people with various things from a very early
yes,
age.
yes, yes. So yeah, same here. And like I don't know, like learning how to code, and like I don't know, HTML when I was really like a young kid. Really excited about the internet and building websites, right, and all that kind of stuff. Um, and I think that I started working for a hardware company that I won't give out its name, but I started working there, and I felt that I don't know, like, I felt maybe it's not for me, like the entire like being a tech guy and whatnot, and like in a specific moment in my undergrad, I decided to take a specific class called Intro to Image Processing, and it was just like for extra credits, and I didn't really need it, right? And it was like I'll do something that I feel could be easy or whatever, and basically I fell in love with image processing and computer vision, which is like the the twin sister of it, right? And the rest is history because that's what made me go into machine learning and image processing and computer vision and optics, and that's where I what was my master's degree and PhD. And basically, I mean that now I'll talk a bit about computer vision, but I fell in love with it because I felt that it's the first time I'm getting instant feedback, visual feedback for the work I'm doing, for the ideas I'm having. And basically, like we see today, I don't know, like all that AI stuff, like Stable Diffusion and DALI 2 and like all the generative stuff. And I remember that when I started, then like doing all that stuff and thinking about algorithms that do certain tasks, and like I don't know, like how to take an image of I don't know, like the Grand Canyon, right, or something like that, or any canyon, and put a print on it that will look like a graffiti, right? Something like that. And that's like, for me, it was super creative, and it felt like, okay, wow, once I succeed and make it even robust or more generalized, then like I did something and I see it like one moment after, and that's something that really changed like the path for me. And like I became an expert in computer vision, still developing a lot of algorithms in this field. and basically, like, you know NFTs and like machine vision, let's say computer vision, doesn't matter. They're very correlated because like generative art and all those generative collections, obviously, and that's what people do today, like in AI. And basically, it's like, as a researcher in this field, it's like understanding images or videos or any visual content in many different ways, like the layers of it visually and the frequencies of the image, and like a lot of different stuff. And like image processing is really, like making cool stuff and filters and whatnot. And computer vision, it's like it's twin, actually. That's what I said before, where you can understand what is happening in the image or in the video just using algorithms, which is pretty cool, like using, I don't know, like neural networks or whatnot. And then once you have this context aware method or algorithm, then you can manipulate the image with image processing in a lot of different ways. Because, like, let's say I see you now on the Zoom call, right? Then let's say I can filter you out of the background because I know you're a person, etc. And then put, I don't know, like a virtual background, like behind you. And actually Zoom does that, right? But like, that's the stuff like I was working on, I don't know, like 5 or 6 years ago. And that's the cool stuff that I love, because like it really it's really useful. You really see it, and it's really fun.
Oh yeah. So that's what I was going to ask, is your example for like putting graffiti onto the Grand Canyon. That's something now we think about, oh, Photoshop. I would drag it in. I would do this. I would do that. Whatever one would do to create that. But you're doing that with algorithms, and also sort of defining the algorithms that make this happen. So sort of timing wise, when you got into computer vision, was there a starting off point for you? Because I know we're about the same age. Like, I just turned 40. Like, just knowing you grew up in the 90s, I don't want like any specifics, but like,
No, it's okay. I'm 35.
gotcha. Yeah. So timing wise, then where was computer vision? Because now we take so much for granted. I mean, when Snapchat had filters back in the day, it's like, whoa, it'll do all these things. And now there's just an explosion of
Yeah.
what I guess would be computer vision.
So it's funny, because when I started doing image processing and computer vision, it was I don't know, 2014, 2015, something like that. And basically, it was, like, most of the people still, even in the field itself, most of the people still didn't use, like neural networks and deep learning, machine learning, etc. And now, now it's a commodity, right? I mean, everyone uses it, and yeah, it exploded. But back then, you had to really think of, like feature engineering for every different task that you wanted to do. And like generalizing tasks to I don't know, like to work in the wild, let's say, or like not in lab conditions. That was super hard. And and obviously deep learning, etc. It made a lot of the things easier because generalizing became much easier, and like you could do a lot of different and new tasks. But back then, like I think that the edge that I have over researchers that didn't know those methods and old manual algorithms, basically, or manually engineered algorithms, is that like I know how to engineer features, even like in many different ways, and it helps me understand like how neural networks, let's say, think, right? I mean, quote unquote, but think, and it makes me like more, I think more resilient to changes in the field, and like more receptive to new stuff, because I mean it's basically built on the same building blocks that I learned before the world changed, like to deep learning and doing everything with neural networks, etc.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a fascinating area. Like, what would someone working in that space, what would a typical day look like? Because I feel like it's so hard to grasp the breadth of the timeline to develop some of these things that now we just take so much for granted.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, it always, at least the way I feel is that it always happens in like, you know, each year there's like a new algorithm, and everyone, like all researchers, are trying to, like manipulate it a bit, or make it a bit better, or like try different and exciting new tasks using it, and like you get a lot of different use cases, and that's how basically everything blows up, right? Because there are a lot of different researchers that come with a lot of different ideas with the same algorithm, or with a similar family of like algorithms, and I think like the day to day, as someone who's mostly a researcher and also a developer, but like that's only when you have to really implement stuff. I feel that like a lot of my days are just sitting and thinking, and like and trying stuff. Like it's a lot of trial and error, and like there are a lot of I feel a lot of different eureka moments. Like I suddenly like I have an idea, and I'm trying stuff, and like once your days look like that, I mean, besides besides being super fun, right? It's also very fulfilling and satisfying to like come up with new ideas, and like getting new use cases for existing algorithms, or making them different or better. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that sitting and thinking, it's like a philosopher. I mean, it's like a tech philosopher where you're pondering and putting these puzzle pieces together. Like, I think that's partially what really speaks to me about all of tech and programming and whatnot, is that it's solving deep problems, and it might not even be
Mhm.
problems that we know yet. Like, I just talked to Aaron Blaisdell, who's a neuroscientist, and the way he described his research through cognition into cognition with pigeons was that essentially he's taking a flashlight, shining it on the corner of the room, and discovering more dark areas that we need to shine on. And it's just, I thought that was a really great way to look at it, because it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And as you described, having developers, having researchers take an algorithm that everyone's looking at, and then poking and prodding and adjusting and tweaking and seeing, they're just
Yeah,
shining light on more unknown areas, sort of in the room that is that algorithm.
I totally agree, and like that's like a lot of people say that like to have great ideas, or or like great advancements in something, you need to think outside of the box, right? There's this saying outside of the box, right? But I think that a lot of times amazing ideas come from thinking inside the box, only differently. Like rearranging everything you have inside the box, and sometimes it just creates an entirely new field, right? Entirely new dimensions of problems you can solve, um, and I think that it really it really speaks to me what you said, because um, like shining that light to a dark corner of the room, then like it starts with like seeing a spider there, right, or something like that. And once the spider runs away, then maybe you see that he made this, I don't know, like huge web, right? And then you see like, oh, cool, there's this ant stuck in there, right? And I mean, it becomes like a world, right? And that's something that like everything you do makes you think more, makes you come up with more ideas, and maybe like next time you'll encounter a specific problem, then oh cool, you know that you did something before that might solve this one. So
Yeah, absolutely. Do you find that you switch out of, say, computer vision mode? Like, do you reach maybe for certain books or types of podcasts or anything to really to sharpen the mind, but not be so laser focused? Because that's something for me. I feel like I need to jump over to, I don't know, personal development or some Stoic philosophy I really love. Like things that are,
mhm.
it's all connected, but it's not what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. Do you have anything like that that you reach for?
Yeah, so basically I do love reading like philosophy books about a lot of stuff, like Plato, or like a lot of different Greek philosophers or stuff like that, because I think that like it makes you think on a more general sense, and basically sometimes it gives you, if I'm taking it back to computer vision, then I once I woke up and I asked myself, wait, if two images rhymed, how would it look like? How would it look like, right? I mean, because
If they do what?
words,
Sorry.
sounds rhyme.
Oh, if they rhyme. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, like words rhyme, and I thought like images, like an image is worth like, I don't know, like 1,000 words or whatever they say, right? But what would it look like if they rhyme, if two images rhymed, and can I find an algorithm that searches for pairs of images that rhyme, right? And I still didn't get the answer, right? But it's something to think about, because like in terms of philosophy, that's like not the way you think about rhyming, right? But still there is something there, because like a word describes something and an image describes something as well, right? I mean, that's like how you pair stuff, and that's like how you learn a language, right? So if we could make those analogies with rhyming and I don't know, like all that stuff, then maybe it would open up something new with images as well.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. I obviously never thought of that before, but I really like just pondering that. Yeah, what would it mean for visuals to rhyme? It's sort of like how in audio, it's so hard to describe audio. Like it, at least in my
Right.
mind.
Yeah, because I agree, because like with audio, then it's more like how it makes you feel, like this voice makes me feel, I don't know, like safe or warm inside, or like, stuff like that, or this music, it gives me goosebumps, right? It's something like that. But with an image, yeah, you can describe it with words much better, because all of your thinking is is like pairing images and words, right? I mean, that's yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, with audio
yes,
too, it's like you can't just, if you don't have lyrics to a song, you couldn't search for it. We don't have that context in our brains. And it's something that I know through machine learning, trying to be able to search through all these different things, whether it's like a Google search or something else. It's so valuable, but at the same time, it's so weird because we're not even wired that way to sort of define certain things like that yet.
right. I agree.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, and I think like it takes me back to NFTs because like we're talking about feelings and like how you describe stuff, right? And I think that that's why like I say all the time that NFTs are for me are mostly digital toys, right? I mean that's what they are, and I think that like I loved Power Rangers when I was a kid, right? So that's like was one of my favorites, and I had action figures and like all that, and like I'm trying to think about all the all the imaginary scenarios I used to do with all those action figures, and like when I think about Animetas, for example, then I have this picture, right? But it's not only a picture. I mean, like you can develop an entire world around this specific character, right? And and then you can decide that you don't want this world anymore and wake up the next day and develop a different new world, right? And every story it could be amazing, and it's all based on like I don't know, like it's 600 over 600 pixels, right? And that's basically that, right? And think about like how it makes you um, creative and how how much substance could be in like this simple image.
yeah. What are some ways that you think we could use something like an NFT to empower people for that creativity, since there isn't there isn't the action figure, or at least not yet, you know?
Yeah, so to empower people, I think that like I think that money is empowering, right? I mean, that's one sense of it, right? Because once I don't know, like once Yuga did this genius thing of giving the IP rights to each owner, right? Then you could I don't know, like go and make your own burger shop or your own coffee or just make a brand out of your ape, right? And that's like I think phase number one because it creates like an emotional connection between you and the image, right? And that's super important. But also, like you can make a living out of it, and that's super cool as well. But more than that, I think that like some things that we haven't explored enough yet is how how you really create like this story world or fantasy world of or whatever around those images and around those NFTs. And you're like, let's say, um, just stuff that I'm thinking like,
You're getting a little
in,
muffled. I don't know if maybe your finger might be over a mic.
okay, how about now?
Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay, great. So basically, um, I lost my train of thought a bit. So
Sorry. Yeah, but
you'll have to remind me.
yeah. It was just sort of how we can empower people. So you
Oh,
mentioned
great.
yeah
Yeah.
with IP and things, but yeah, cracking that code.
Yes. So like when I'm thinking about like future use cases for NFTs that I don't know if empowerment is the right word, but we're like making new and personal content and experiences for owners because, like, let's say Disney releases, I don't know, like a set of 1 million NFTs, right? Whatever, right? And you get one, right? And you go to Disneyland or Disney World or whatever, and there's this ride where if you have an NFT and you use it to go on the ride, then the what you see in the ride, maybe it's AR, maybe it's VR, it doesn't matter, then it's something that is related personally to the NFT that you own, right? Or if you watch a Disney Plus show, right? I mean, and you connect to the account with your wallet that owns a specific NFT, then that NFT becomes the protagonist of the show, and it's yours, right? I mean, that's the kind of stuff I think so like it's empowering, but in terms of like something like feeling that something is yours, like an experience is truly yours and yours alone.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and being able to take it with you. I like the thought in person, like at Disney, going on a ride and having it customized there. Like it is just a little. It's like a little thank you. It's a you're 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 suddenly putting this tangible physical feeling, like actual like the feeling going through this experience has now been connected to that NFT in a way that's very unique. I really like the thought of that.
Yeah, because if you think about it, like I don't know, like if you have Apple Music or Spotify or whatnot, right? Then I don't know, like once a year or on your birthday, they make like a list that is for you, right? That is right tailor made for you because they know like what songs you like and what music you like and like all that stuff, right? And and okay, that's like personally for you, but obviously it's from IP that everyone can listen to and everyone knows probably, right? Unless you like very niche stuff, right? I don't know, but but basically, if you think about it, then taking that to the next step is exactly what I'm talking about because you own like a specific NFT, and it doesn't have to be unique. Maybe it's a small group of people that owns it, right? But only you guys can get into a specific experience that anyone can get into. But when you get into it, then you see it differently than anyone else, right? I mean,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, so we started this conversation talking about agility and being agile and experimenting, testing, and moving forward. What are some of the things that maybe have changed? Because we all start with a premise. We come into the space, we find it. Like, are there some hypotheses or things that you've poked on through the project, just through looking outwardly, that have changed how you're looking at things from when this all started?
yes. So I think that there was, for me at least, a lot of trial and error once they got in, like since they got into the space, and and I feel like a lot of different phases made me realize different stuff because like today, even though I'm super proud of the 10K project Animetas is right, then I do think that scale should look a lot differently than like making the collection bigger or the second generation of the collection because it means that you know, like I want I want more people to participate and to make it easy for them to participate. That's one thing. Another premise is that like when I got into the space and learned more about like ETH and NFTs in general and like all that, then I really thought like a purist. Like everyone should like be their own custodian, like have a hardware wallet, etc. And I realized that most people like won't do it, and it's a barrier for mass adoption, right? And today I'm thinking, who cares? Like, what's the engine that that is running things in the background, right? I mean, let's just give people easy ways to own digital items, right? And it should be on the Ethereum blockchain or L2 chains or whatever, but it should be easy to onboard to NFTs. It shouldn't be like this huge barrier of like buying ETH, opening a MetaMask or an equivalent and minting, like getting like exposing yourself to all those risks, right? And you should just like be able to connect with your email, pay with a credit card, something like Top Shot, but on the Ethereum blockchain. So that's the second thing that I think changed for me. Um, and and also like the third thing is that like I wasn't too excited about how metaverses looked when I got into NFTs. Um, and I'm still not very excited about it, but like I think I'm on a journey with myself to define what is the metaverse because like at this specific moment, I think it's more like an overlay to real life, like AR or something like that, than it's like me going to a world that I don't really exist in, right? Because like then that won't get really mass adoption and become part of our lives, in my opinion. Um, yeah, and that's something I'm still thinking about.
Yeah, and it comes back to that experience. Like if there's a reason to experience it in that way, to be within there's something. But I feel very similarly. There's so many different metaverses. Everyone's like, this is the next big thing. Like you are doing other side, and just everywhere there's something that's going to be huge. But I do keep questioning, but why? Like sort of like just to have a game. Like, and I know you've talked about this too. Just to have a game isn't the win. Like the win is to have a game that's fun that people want to keep playing. Like there's that next step that's so important, and I think that ties right into metaverses too. That just having one doesn't really mean that anyone other than holders will feel anything, will have any connection to a given metaverse, or like even want to use it.
I agree, and I think like you know maybe like for me, I need a really good reason, like to stay in a virtual space for a very long time and spend like my days there or whatever. Maybe it works for our teens or kids or whatnot because like they have a lot of spare time and like they can invest in this kind of stuff and it's fantasy worlds and all that. But I think like for grown-ups, it it cannot work like that. And I think that experimenting with stuff is great. And because, for example, other side, I mean, the stuff they're doing technologically, like, I don't know, like 200,000 people in the same place. That's super cool, right? I mean, the how it renders in real time and all that. I mean, I love that, but I don't know if I'll like if I could spend a lot of time in such a world, not because I have anything against such a world, but like that's not how I spend my time usually. So, like that's
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm right there with you. Because like honestly, like Second Life, that exists. It's been around for a very long time. There is a core group of I think that like 50 to 60,000 people who are like diehards, regular users of it. And like that is a metaverse. It is somewhere you can go and connect with people, and people are there because of the community. They're there because they've built friendships over the years. And I'm like they're adults now using it, but they're there because of what they've built together, I think.
mm-hmm.
And just having a metaverse, just having a destination is missing all the magic of all of it. So it would be like it'd be hard for me too, like to spend any real measurable amount of time in something that doesn't have that really strong pull of some sort.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like, I never even looked at Second Life, right? I mean,
Mhm.
that's
Same.
never tried it, never, it's not appealing for me at least. Um, and I do think that, for example, like another Pokemon example is Pokemon Go, right? Because that was another layer to life, right? So you could, I don't know, like walk around the street or walk with a friend or whatever, and just find Pokemon wherever, right? I mean, and that created, I don't know, like casual meetings between people, or a lot of people going to the same place because they heard there's a Pokemon there or whatnot. And basically it didn't change like how you behave in real life, because you always walk around with your phone, right? And sometimes you're on the street, right? So maybe it makes you walk more, right? But but basically what it did is it added a layer to what you were doing anyway. And that's how I feel successful and viral technologies work.
Yeah, definitely. That makes perfect sense because, yeah, it's not just this exists so people will use it and love it. There's so much more that goes into it that the more seamless it can become,
Mm-hmm.
the more likely it is that people will that they'll want to be a part of it. So you're big on punks, on crypto punks. And
Right.
or I know like you've been sort of within the community for a little bit. There is a magic to it that I'm curious. So we have that it is from 2017. It's or 17, I believe, right? um, so like it's we have the time that it's been around, but I can't help but feel like there's a magic to it in that it is a PFP. It's a JPEG, whatever you want to look at, that is so broad. It's so generic, if you will. There's not a lot of detail
Mm-hmm.
there where people can project so much onto it that like I talked about this with Amara a lot and like um that there's something more there because people can connect with it in a richer way than almost every other NFT. And like the example I think about is Spotty. So Spotty Wi-Fi, he has his
Yeah.
Spotty like CryptoPunk, but that is just the little seed that then he built everything on top of where he's almost it's like his identity is the CryptoPunk, but more so it's all the other derivatives, all the everything that was built on top of it because there was room for it. And I'm just sort of curious. Do you feel a similar sort of value in punks in that way, or how do you look at punks in general?
So yeah, I mean, I think that punks are genius in so many levels that most of them are like probably a coincidence, because like you can predict what will happen, right?
Mhm.
I mean, Larva Labs just made them and released them and thought that would be a fun experiment, right? And yeah, so okay, they're from 2017, but probably there are a lot more projects from back then. I mean, and and basically, I totally agree with what you're saying, because in terms of art, they are basically nothing, and they're also everything. I mean, like I don't know why, but when you look at them, you're like, what's I mean, it's 24 by 24 pixels, right? I mean, that's all that is. And and still, like when you look at a punk, then there's so much character inside it, like and you see like how I mean, it does make you feel. It's like, okay, this punk is cool because it wears 3D glasses, and man, I used to wear those when I was a kid, and like all that, or VR glasses, or handlebars, mustache, or like all that. And I don't know, like it seems like although they're super small, each one of them has like this cool character that you can build around, right? And yeah, they are vanilla, but still they have so many flavors, right? I mean, that's basically what they are, and that's why I'm super excited about them. Um, and also, I mean, they don't have royalties. The marketplace, it's like basically it's not even ERC 721. It's like I don't know, like enhanced ERC 20. So it means it's like like those silver dollars with the presidents on them, right, or something like that in the US. Then it's pretty much the same. I mean, you have like a unique coin, and there are 10K of those, and they run their own marketplace, and you can get them out of there, and you can change it, and like it's I don't know, it's like the perfect NFT in my opinion.
Definitely. Yeah, it's something that I wish I was early enough into understanding and believing in the space that I would have had the opportunity, because it was like so many people. Like I was the end of 2020 when I started buying ETH. Like it wasn't like way back when I knew people who had Bitcoin, and it unfortunately the one person that I knew who really was into it, I'm like, he's a little nuts. And I'm like, it threw me off. Like more like I was more skeptical about it because of his belief, unfortunately, than really taking a step back and be like, let me look at this. Let me look at where this is going and what this could be. But yeah, I find punks so valuable to dissect. And it's sort of that, like it comes like to like a brand too. The real value is that space between us and the brand. And the magic happens there, where it's like, the punk is the punk, like Spotty, for example. Like it is a spotty punk. But the magic is happening here because we're creating it. Our brains, our hearts, like we're filling in all that connective tissue. And I think it's something that when it comes to PFPs and IP specific related projects, I think it's something that a lot of people could learn from, like sort of really now looking at the broad scope of everything. Like we've seen so much in the last year, and now everything has quieted down, of course, as it should. It can't be boom forever. But yeah, I think it's something valuable to be looking at moving forward. But we're at time. I don't want to take too much of your time. I really appreciate you taking the time out to share a little bit about your story, but to dive into these topics, I just find all of this fascinating. I've always really appreciated your insight into all of it, and the threads you write are phenomenal. And yeah, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, and I love being here, and you're a great host. So thanks a lot, and let's do it another time. I mean,
yeah, I'm all for it. Yeah, we'll definitely have to have a round two. Where should we send people to follow along with you and the project and everything?
Where should we send? So my Twitter account and the Animetas Twitter account. That's like
sweet. Yeah, the best.
Where I'll be. Yeah, so that's
perfect. Yeah, and it's Cyberh49. The H is silent, right? Is that what it is?
Exactly.
I like it. But yeah, thanks again. I really appreciate your time. And yeah, we'll definitely have to put one of these on the schedule in the future to have a round two. I want to thank Cyberh for joining me on this episode. You can follow him on Twitter at Cyberh, the letter H, 49, Cyberh49, and you can find Animetas everywhere. It's an amazing project. I love the pixel art from Gustavo, just all of it. It's an awesome project, and as you can see, Cyberh loves this space and loves creating and building and growing. And yeah, I really found it fascinating. How you doing over there, Amara? Good, your camera's working. I was afraid it wasn't going to kick on, wasn't going to show you. But yeah, all the computer vision stuff, like I find that very fascinating.
I had no damn idea what he was talking about for the last over an hour.
Sorry.
I was trying to keep track, but I was like, my tiny little peanut brain
no,
handle it.
No, but see, like, I mean, computer science is my my
nerd.
technical area. Well, yeah. So, but I find it really fascinating. I'm really glad that he took the time.
It was really cool. I was just like, I don't understand.
Well, yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Like, it's just
I learned something today.
But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope everyone listening, I hope you enjoyed it as well. And I want to thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing, giving a little thumbs up if you do, and if you don't, why not? It's just a little. Don't you laugh?
Yeah, give him a thumbs up, or I'll find you.
But yeah, anyway, this has been Started Now. I'm Jeff Sarris. I love that you're always laughing at me. every intro or outro, there's something. But anyway, this is Started Now. I'm Jeff Sarris, and I'll see you next time.
You better give it a thumbs up.